Hey, good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to the John F. Gately Show. You can call me Jack, broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth. Beautiful Plymouth, Massachusetts. It looks like it's going to be a great stretch of weather. Mike, could I even get the boat out one more time this year? I don't know, but it does look. We maybe stop by the beach when we're downtown later today. It's looking really nice out. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you. I have to do a little technical thing here. The StreamYard was giving me a little trouble. So I have to actually, before we actually start today's show, I just want to kind of toggle this back and forth here to see what's going on just before we continue on. So hold on. I'm watching me, watching you, watching me. Oh, yeah. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, there we go. So we're going to toggle it back that way. All right. Just had to fix that. And now we can start. Now we can start the show. I don't know why StreamYard would have thrown me a curveball like that, but they did. And I'm glad we were. Thank you for bearing with me. I there was no other way I could test that without going live. So now we've got it. All right. Are you ready? All right. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Now that we have our technical difficulty out of the way, and I'll blab on for another second about technical difficulties. I don't know what's going on with my phone, but I'm fairly tech savvy, and I've got like the newest and greatest phone here. I could not get that thing to broadcast on YouTube horizontally this weekend. The live stream horizontally on my phone this weekend. Couldn't get it to work. I've heard that that's a problem, but it was a struggle and never got it to work. All right, so let's get into it. We've been talking since Trump's victory last fall. We've been talking, it's coming up close to a year now, isn't it? We've been talking about what's going to happen to the Democrat Party, right? And there's been a lot of different trial balloons that have occurred, but undeniably, we understand where the Democrat Party is going now. It's further and further and further and further left, and to some degree, violently. Yeah, right? That's undeniable. And sad, really, really super sad. And I think that when you have a failing ideology, as they do, the only thing that makes sense is to keep becoming more and more extreme. As we've been talking about, and we've referenced this in the past, that effectively the Democratic Party is French Revolution adjacent. And now, basically, they're like not so much adjacent, but they're kind of French Revolutionary in and of themselves. So over the weekend, there was this interview with the guy that runs the Massachusetts Democratic Party. And here's a very quick 7-second clip. Thank you, Mass Daily News Live, or whatever they're called now, for clipping this. But here is the guy from Channel 5 asking the Massachusetts Democrat chair, failed candidate Steve Kerrigan, where the party should go now.
So should the party tack toward the center or turn farther left?
Should they go to the center or turn farther left? Pretty straightforward question.
Party should continue to do what we have been doing for a while now. And
we should continue to do what we've been doing, which is more of the same. That was the answer from the Democratic Party chief. And what has been the number one, like from an electoral point of view, how do we want to say this, direction? Who has been the leader, so to speak, of the Democrat Party in 2025? Somebody that you never heard of, right, until this year. And that is, of course, Zoran in New York City. Here is Cynthia Nixon in New York City Sex and the City Cynthia Nixon explaining how he's the guy that's going to stand up to Trump.
It is election day. I'm on my way to vote. I don't know that I have ever been more excited to vote for anyone than I am to vote for Zohran Mamdani. I've got my button. I've got my Don't Rank Cuomo t-shirt, and I have them hidden because I'm going to a polling site.
I'm really glad that she had like 2 t-shirts on. Here's the thing. Like, doesn't she represent, just look at her right now. Doesn't she represent every childless cat lady you know, right? In Lexington and Hingham and Acton.
Site. Zohran 1, Brad 2, Adrian 3, Stringer 4, Michael Blake 5. And whatever you do, don't rank Cuomo.
Don't rank Cuomo.
Vote for Jumaane. Vote for Justin Brannan. We have a chance to make sure that our corrupt, sexual harassing, Trump donor supported, disgraced former governor is not elected mayor of New York. And we
all right. She's on to something there. Cuomo is a really bad candidate.
have a chance. We're within the polling site now. We have a chance to elect Zohran, to have fast free buses, to have rent stabilized apartments with the rent frozen. We have
rent's going to be frozen. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be free.
Subsidized grocery stores, and we have free child care from ages 6 months to 5 years. We have a guy who will stand up to Trump, and we will have a guy who creates a city for all of us. Make sure you vote today and don't rank Cuomo.
Don't rank Cuomo. Sorry, did you get the message? Don't rank Cuomo. Don't even, yeah, right. A bullet for Zohran, effectively. She's insane, but it's a perfect example of what the Democratic Party has become. It's finally revealed itself. I was listening to the Dad Save America podcast this weekend, and I can't remember who the guest was. Forgive me who the guest was, but he said something that kind of made a lot of sense to me. He said that the woman at Harvard, what's her name? Gay, Claudine Gay. He said that she should not have lost her job because it's much better to have her at the top of the heap over at Harvard because it completely identifies the institution for exactly what it is. The fact that they dethroned her from the presidency, oh, don't worry, she still has her job there. She's just not the president. But the fact that they took her off the top of the masthead allows Harvard to somehow have some type of deniability about exactly who they are. And his argument was, no, Claudine Gay should be there because it's an accurate reflection of Harvard as an institution writ large. And that is actually what Zohran is, right? Zohran is finally revealing the Democrat Party for what it is, which is a far left and getting farther left socialist organization. And of course, the only difference between socialism and communism is how you spell the words. There is a different spelling, but effectively those two things are the same. Now, you could go down the rabbit hole. No, socialism is this and communism. No, they're the same. All the same. You could like say it's one degree or the other. They're effectively all the same. Thank you so much for joining us today. Great to have you. Happy Monday, Angry Survivor. Reposted this stream. Very nice of you. Thank you very much. We love your comments. So if you have any comments, you could just throw them in here. So more about who the Democrats are in this clip from Mrs. Potato Head. So if you weren't aware, someone that's on the FBI's most wanted terrorist list died in Cuba in a week or so ago. And her name was Assata Shakur, if I have it right. She's Tupac's godmother. Tupac's godmother died in Cuba Jack, why did she die in Cuba? Because she's on the FBI's most wanted terrorist list. They've been looking for her since like 1979 or something like that. Why? Because she killed a cop, a state trooper in New Jersey. That's why. And so when she died and the news got out, Mrs. Potato Head felt it important at the Black Congressional Caucus event late last week that she should celebrate this cop killer and honor her upon the occasion of her death. And then she has these white women, you see them here, basically parroting these revolutionary platitudes. And if you have never read Tom Wolfe, Radical Chic, I would strongly recommend it. But that's what the headline of this is. This is Cop Killer Radical Chic, where Mrs. Potato Head is parroting these things, is saying these things, call and response, and these white women on the panel are basically calling for their own demise. It's wild.
I'm going to do a little call and response. One of my favorite, in the words of Asada Shakur. So I will say it and you respond and repeat it back. It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other and support each other.
We must love each other and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chance.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
They all parrot her. Even the little woman in the red, she's a slightly reluctant in the red jacket on the left. She's slightly reluctant, but the rest of them, and the woman in the red kind of goes along too. But like, we have nothing to lose but our chains. Ariana Presley, didn't we just realize that she's like a gazillionaire now with a property on Martha's Vineyard? She's part of the establishment, yet she's now parroting this like revolutionary BS while she's celebrating a cop killer. Anthony Amore, once again, Anthony Amore for the win. He didn't offer any particular commentary. He just posted very simply the memorial plaque, I guess we would call it, for the state trooper who lost his life at the hands of the woman that Mrs. Potato Head just honored. State Trooper Warner Forrester. Badge number 2608, May 2, 1973. That's who Ariana Presley should be honoring, but instead she honors his killer. Disgusting and vile. You want to know where the Democrat Party is going? That's where it's gone, right? That's where it's gone. Unbelievable. Here is, if you want to bring this again locally here is our Attorney General. Here is our Attorney General here in beautiful Massachusetts, who is too busy suing Trump to effect an audit, which 72% of us voted for. And this is posted by Alex, which I believe Alex is originally a Massachusetts resident, if I'm not mistaken. Here is Campbell speaking with Simon Rosenberg, again, equating Republicans with Nazis.
Collective effort is what's going to win the day against an administration that is, of course, moving away from a democratic institutions, democratic values, to something of fascism, or what we saw in Nazi Germany. But we all can do our part.
We can all do our part. What do you think that means? What do you think that type of rhetoric means to somebody? Now, somebody, it might mean, oh, I'm going to put a bumper sticker on my car, or I'm going to go to a protest. But to a small sliver of the population, it means that, well, yeah, exactly, right? That's exactly it. But that's when they start to call for revolution in this kind of sly way. This is incredibly dangerous for society.
To something of fascism or what we saw in Nazi Germany. But we all can do our part.
We can all do our part. People hear that differently. You have to be extremely careful with your rhetoric, right? And this is the Attorney General of Massachusetts, who's too busy suing Trump to give us the audit that we all voted for. I already mentioned that. Jeff Deal for the win. There might be some hope. 2015 to 2025 will go down as an era when Americans learned that the Democrat Party was infiltrated with real fascists and communists and made a sea change back to the center, to individual freedom and, quite frankly, normalcy. Now, we're not going to play this whole 2-minute video by this woman here, but just listen for a minute. She has a nose ring and glasses. That's going to throw you off at first. But she just figured out who the sane people are. Listen closely.
When will y'all admit? Oh, I almost spilled my coffee. When will y'all admit that killing somebody over the words coming out of their mouth, their religious or political views, is a form of fascism? Y'all are bitching about fascism constantly, and you cannot give us a single fucking actual example of how the right is fascist. And y'all are fucking killing people and celebrating it and calling us fascists. You're fucking retarded. That was mean. I'm autistic. I can say retarded, but that was mean. Y'all aren't retarded. You're just incredibly misguided, and I apologize for being mean. I'm loud, and I was loud for the left. I was a loud Democrat. Back in 2020, I got the COVID-19 vaccination, and I said that you are evil if you don't get it. And now I have a clinical medical fucking heart condition that is an actual hindrance on my life that I did not have until after I got that fucking vaccination, which technically has nothing to do with what I'm saying, but forcing people. I was forced to get the vaccine. I was going to be fired from my job. I was trying to schedule appointments that I was not allowed to schedule until I got the fucking vaccination, and forcing people to get stuff injected into their body against their consent. Oh, it's my body, my choice, until it's fucking your choice. Guess it makes no fucking sense to me, but I fucking digress.
All right, you get the point that maybe some people are waking up. Maybe some people are waking up and they're like, what? Maybe some people are waking up and they're like, maybe the Democrats have gone too far. But remember, Orange Man bad, Trump is bad. We have to plan for the shutdown. Bay State agencies told to come up with shutdown plans by Tuesday. It must be Trump's fault because Trump doesn't want illegal aliens to get all the benefits. Right, we don't want to talk about that. But we have to plan for the inevitable shutdown. Bay State agents come up with plans with potential government shutdown looming, which is coming because of the Democrats. The Healy administration wants state agencies to come up with a plan on how they'll operate if the federal fiscal support was suddenly shut off. You know, I don't know, but maybe we should have a plan to begin with. Maybe we should already have that plan, like on the shelf, right? We should have had a plan like that for a long time. A shutdown could create challenges, to use my Howie Carr voice. Oh, excuse me, to use my Kathy Carr husband's voice. Challenges for certain spending accounts in the general fund grants, revenue collected through the federal reimbursement, blah, 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 blah. Potentially impacted programs include the Commonwealth's mass health insurance program, which relies on federal financial participation in the form of rebates, blah, 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 blah. In other words, it's not self-sustaining, right? If it wasn't for the federal government, which, of course, that's free money if it comes from Washington, D.C. Oh, that's federal money. Yeah, that's not actually really money. If it comes from the federal government, you see, our Massachusetts Romney Obamacare scheme doesn't make any sense financially unless we're bailed out from the federal government, right? Yeah, that's how it works. And if we don't have that federal money, there's a word for it. Yeah, it starts with an F, ends in an ED. That's exactly what it is. By the way, thank you so much for joining us today. Wow, big crowd today. Thank you. When we take a look at what Mara is doing, this is a new graph out, and this is probably the best graph or one of the best graphs I've seen recently. Exactly describing the economic situation here in Massachusetts. So credit to Pioneer Institute for this graph that came out, I think, late last week. The first quarter of 2025, Florida, which is bigger than Massachusetts, to be fair, added 103,000 private sector jobs. The important part there is private sector jobs. Understand that a government job does not add value directly to the economy. There are some things that the government can do to facilitate investment, but those are jobs that are, how do we want to say, few and far between. The vast majority of jobs from the government provide services that in a lot of cases could be provided better by the private sector or don't need to be provided at all. But some jobs in the state do provide value, but it's certainly not all of them. There's a lot of them that could be going away, right? And if we had a governor that really understood what the relationship should be between the government and the people, our government should be a lot smaller than it is now. But here is the numbers from this Pioneer Institute chart. Florida added 103 private sector jobs in the first quarter of 2025. Massachusetts lost 11 or 12,000 jobs during the same period. Find this data in Pioneer's new U.S. Data Labs website below. Yeah, wow, that is nasty. Who beat us? Let's see. Massachusetts came in second. Oh, we were only beaten by California. So if I read this chart right, it's California, Massachusetts, and Maryland. I don't know why the arrow points to the third bar because we're listed second there. So I think there might be an error in your I think that arrow should be on the second part. Nonetheless, we lost 11 or 12,000 jobs, and place like Florida, they gained 103. Yeah, and I mean, you look at some of these other states that lost. West Virginia, trace amount. Missouri, Tennessee lost jobs. That's surprising. District of Columbia, Maryland. Well, that's probably a good thing, assuming that's probably some government jobs. So that's probably good. But all these other states, they gained jobs. Colorado, Ohio, Oklahoma, Arizona, Virginia, PA, Texas, way up. We lost private sector employment. We lost private sector employment. That is really, really bad. I got a lot of thick questions over the weekend, and yesterday I didn't post on X at all. Kind of felt I needed another day off. I was watching and maybe responding to a couple of things, but I didn't post my own original. But I got a lot of comments of people complaining about the rent, right? And my response was the rent is too goddamn high. Remember that guy, Jimmy McMillan from New York, right? That TV commercial or video he put out, that was really good back. It's like a decade ago or something like that. I'm Jimmy McMillan, right? From the rent is too goddamn high party. Hilarious, but effective. And in a way, Zoran's running a kind of a similar concept right this year without the humor. He's just going to freeze your rent. Oh, we're just going to freeze it. We're going to give childcare for free. Everything's going to be free in New York. But a lot of people are telling me about how the rent is going up. Yeah, commercial rent. We were talking, for instance, about the TJ Maxx that's closing at the end of Newbury Street, where Tower Records used to be. If you're old school like me, it used to be Best Buy after that. And I don't know if there was something else there. Definitely Tower Records, Best Buy, and TJ Maxx. But TJ Maxx has decided, for whatever business reason, that the store doesn't make sense anymore, and they're closing, I think, at the end of the year. They're also closing a couple of Starbucks throughout Massachusetts, and that happens. Starbucks closes things from time to time, but they're closing. Some of you might know, like I do business in downtown Boston, and they're closing the 2 Starbucks that are in between my office. So the Downtown Crossing Starbucks closing, and the Steaming Kettle, which is the iconic building, which is at the end of the Sears Crescent in Scully Square, is also closing. That Starbucks. That's sad to see. I think the Kettle is landmarked, so I think the Kettle will stay, if I'm not mistaken. But there, sadly, I go to both of those Starbucks. I know. But I do go both those Starbucks on a semi-regular basis. And I'm in a Starbucks desert. But getting back to the rent is too goddamn high. So I heard over the weekend from my friend down in Fall River, the Bitcoin real estate guy. He did this video about the rent. And he asked me, what are you seeing out your way? And he's in Fall River. Take a listen.
Releases their fair market rents. Okay, they release these nationally. These are the Fall River rents. You can see them behind me. I have all these screenshots below in the comments so you can read them and download them and share them with your friends and your clients. And basically some very interesting tidbits in the data. Okay, so what this is Section 8 rents. Okay. So this is what they determined to be the fair market rent, and they're pretty much in line with what we're seeing in retail rents, right? But here's what's interesting. So from 2023 to 2024, we saw in Fall River about a 20% jump across the board. And then from 24 to 25, we saw about a 5% decrease, right? So a little reversion, little mean reversion, right? Like we like to say in investing. And then what's interesting is this year now, the numbers they just released, 7% increase more or less across the board.
Wow, 7% increase over last year. Now, he did say they had a little decrease last year. By the way, next time, bring up your audio, bring up your voice, turn down the music just a little bit. Sorry to be an editor. But if I'm looking at the data behind him, he's looking at in Fall River metro region,
which is wild, right? So
here, thank you very much. He's looking at a 2-bedroom apartment in the Fall River area being about $1,800, if I'm not mistaken. Here, looking at these data from the 2026 fair market rent documentation system, whatever the hell that is, but apparently the legit number. So $1,800 to rent an apartment in Greater Fall River. That's yeah. The rent is too goddamn high. No doubt about it. Maybe, just maybe, if we had, how do I want to say this? I don't know, less people. If we had, 5% less people. Oh, Jack, how are we going to get rid of 5% less people? Why? Why would we want to lose? Because they're here illegally. Who do you think puts pressure on, especially entry-level apartments? Illegals who don't have a lot of money, unless they're getting subsidized by the state, which means you, at $15,000 a year. Why do you think those rents are going up? because the state is subsidizing those apartments, and they're subsidizing through the invasion the demand for those apartments. So if we deported, let's just say 300,000 people because they don't belong here and they're here illegally, who's going to cut our grass, Jack? If we deported them, then I'm just going to kind of go out on a limb that your entry-level apartments are going to become more affordable. Because your illegal immigrant that arrives from Honduras, they're not renting the $5,000 a month apartment. They're looking for the $1,600 apartment. And so demand for the especially low-end apartments, the working class apartments that the Democrat Party is allegedly telling us that they care about, they're increasing the demand for those apartments by subsidizing the invasion and now subsidizing the rentals on those. So Bitcoin real estate guy, that's what I'm seeing. I had a lot of people ask me about the rent this weekend, not just you. And the reason why it's going up is because, especially on the low end, we have 5% of our population, at least, that they don't belong here. They're here illegally. That's what's driving up rents. I mean, it's really not that hard to understand. Open borders only benefits the rich. You know, thank you so much for saying that, because I had another comment this weekend about how much money we spent on shelters and the Healy hotels and everything else like that. But understand, one of the most incalculable costs has been the depression of wages for working class citizens. And I have not seen an estimate on that number yet, but it is huge. And when a landscaper doesn't get a raise, or when a Dunkin' Donuts worker doesn't get a raise, or any other type of entry-level citizen working their job, whatever that happens to be, when their wages are not rising, at least at pace with inflation, because of immigration competition, that is a huge wealth transfer. Understand that is a huge wealth transfer from working class people to upper middle class people and beyond, right? When you can get your grass cut for incredibly cheap because you don't have to hire an American citizen, and an American citizen that's going to obey all the rules and have insurance and all that other stuff, you can hire somebody from Honduras to do it for like pennies. That is a wealth transfer. And nobody knows how big that is. But I'm going to say it's many, many times whatever we spent on Healy hotels in the last couple of years. And you want to talk about wealth transfer. This is a topic I don't know a heck of a lot about, but I'm getting to the sense that it's a similar topic. And that's this H-1B1 visa thing, which I got to admit, don't know enough about. But I was shocked by these numbers. Labor Department threatens H-1B1 ban for rule-breaking businesses. And I know Trump came out with some type of like, you can now buy this like thing, but I don't even want to get into that or whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. I just want to look at the numbers right off the bat. So this is from Duncan Burns, and these are H-1B employer numbers in Massachusetts. Fidelity Investments has 7,000 of these employees. Fidelity. Vert USA Corporate. I don't even know who those are. I don't even know who they are. 3,700 employees. Randstad Technologies. Defense contractor, I think. Wayfair. 2,000. MathWorks. 2,000. Wow, MathWorks is that big of a company? I didn't know that. Boston Consulting Group, 1,800. What do they do? On the tip of my tongue. Thermo Fisher, 1,100. Fidelity Technology Group, 1,100. Harvard, 1,100. Akamai, 1,000 and change. That's way more foreign workers here. That I didn't know the numbers were that big. It's actually kind of astounding to me. I didn't know the numbers are that big. Nationwide, Amazon's at the top of the list. Info Systems, Tata, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Deloitte, Facebook. I didn't know the numbers were. I didn't know that these numbers were so. I don't want to get into the policy implications of that. This is not a deep dive on that. Other than that, I was not aware of the numbers were so high, and that we're attracting, if I want to use that phrase, these foreign workers to come work here, competing against American citizens. You get the idea. It's kind of like it's kind of almost my gut feeling. And I'll reserve final judgment till later. But my kind of gut feeling right now is basically we've been talking about the invasion, like the Healy Hotel invasion, but there also seems to be this like upper end invasion for mostly tech workers that's somehow subsidized by the government. Like it's woo, man. Yeah, I don't know enough about it, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing to begin with right off the bat. So thank you, Duncan Burns, for the data, of which I was not aware. You learned me something this weekend. Thank you. Catherine Clark. She's hopefully she'll calm down. She's a little upset. Hospitals are closing. Costs are soaring. Millions of families are losing their health care insurance. Trump is using the presidency to make billions. You deserve better. Democrats are fighting back. And the first comment is from some guy named Mike. I'm sorry, he won't fund your illegal constituents' health care anymore. But to say he's making billions, do you have any proof? Excellent comment. Here's the thing. Mitt Romney, Ted Kennedy, and Obamacare, that's all the same thing, right? Which, for those of you who are kind of new to the thing, Romney Care here in Massachusetts was kind of the pilot program for what eventually became the national version of Obamacare, for those of you who need a little history lesson. So what has clearly happened here is, and we can see this in 1,000 things, and this is a perfect example. This post from Catherine Clark is a perfect example. This is how the Democrats work. They come along and they say, the market is fucked up, and we're going to come in and we're going to reform it, and the government effectively is going to have a bigger role because it's only fair. Then that big change happens. The government gets bigger. And then what do you know? Depending upon how big of a system they're reforming, eventually, whatever they did fails. So another generation of Democrats come along, Catherine Clark, and says, look it, the market is failing. We need government to save us. And what they propose is more government. This is the same. You see this plan with the Democrats constantly. They propose a change. It fails. That change is more government. And then when that fails, a new cast of characters, but effectively the same philosophy, comes along and says, you know what we need? More government. It's like insane. In fact, it like literally is insane. But, you know, if you listen to Maura Healey, she'll tell you that here in Massachusetts, our coverage percentage is everyone has coverage. You have coverage, I have coverage, you have coverage. We all have to have coverage. Of course, that coverage is kind of like going to it's kind of like saying everyone has a voucher for the Soviet grocery store. You have a script to go buy something at the you have ration coupons. You've got plenty of ration coupons. The problem is when you get to the grocery store, it's empty. There's nothing to buy. You might have a fucking wheelbarrow of ration coupons, but there's nothing on the shelf. Didn't we just have a study last week that it takes 60 plus days to get an appointment? I think somebody can fact check me on this, but 60 plus days to get an appointment with the primary care physician in Massachusetts. Did somebody say city-run grocery stores? Cynthia Nixon? Right? You can't run healthcare. Now you're going to run grocery stores. You're already running healthcare like a Soviet grocery store. We don't need you to run grocery stores like Soviet grocery stores. But that's where the direction of the Democrat Party is going. You know, every day I wake up and for those of you who don't know, I kind of took like a decade off from politics, and I woke up and found this app called Twitter, say like in 2009, and I said, oh, no, I can be on Twitter in politics as like a hobby. And I got on Twitter because I took like a whole decade off from politics, effectively 9 years, I guess. And I was like, oh no. What happened? I'm a Republican. I was like, holy shit. What happened? I'm a Republican. I mean, who would knowingly want to be a Republican in Massachusetts? Right? Like, I don't even want to be a Republican. I'm a Reagan Democrat or a President Kennedy Democrat. Except, like, they squeezed me. Like, it's just like that graphic, right? Where you're like, holy smokes, they moved left, right? As Reagan said, I didn't leave the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party left me. Same thing. And, you know, when we're talking about healthcare, since we're on Catherine Clark and her insanity, the healthcare system in Massachusetts is going so well that last week, they authorized I think the number is $234 million bailout of the hospital sector. Where's the number here? There it is here. I'm pretty sure when you add all these numbers up, it becomes $234 million. At least that's the number I remember. Governor Healy signs bill proving critical funding for hospitals and community health centers. If Obama-Romney care was working so well, why would the hospital sector need a bailout? Right? Why would it need a bailout? I don't think I understand that. We're going to skip that story. Yeah, we're going to skip that story too. There we go. We'll go on to this story. Let's see if we can bring this up a little bit bigger for you. No? There we go. That's better. All right. This is from Massachusetts Taxpayer Association, which I'm not necessarily always a big fan of. And I know it's not fitting on the screen perfectly. So let me just tell you that the Massachusetts Taxpayer Foundation, or whatever the hell it's called, has identified 3 primary threats to the state's long-term fiscal stability. 1, persistent stagnation, like losing private sector jobs, like we just spoke about, or declines in state tax revenue collections exacerbated by a larger economic downturn. Remember, it's never anybody's fault in Massachusetts. New and existing pressures on the state budget and spending growth, right? Our spending growth is out of this world. Especially, I remember when the state budget was under $10 billion. So I'm really old, but, you know, the growth is insane. increased reliance on volatile revenue sources to support state spending, including surtax and one-time revenue solutions. In other words, our fiscal health is iceberg ahead, is effectively what they're saying here. Yeah, like there are real problems. Now, remember, all of those problems, none of them are of our making here in Massachusetts. No, none of them are. No, it's all Trump's fault. It's all Trump's fault. Don't you ever forget that. Nothing here in Massachusetts, in the one-party state, is ever the responsibility of the Democrats. No, never. Right? This is dealing with the Democrats is kind of like dealing with like a 5-year-old, because they're never responsible for anything. All right, we have some comments here. Boston Rob says, great point on how it affects middle to low income rents, an extra 300,000 people plus the subsidies. It's not the expensive rents. Right. All of the pressure is on the entry level apartments. That's exactly right. They're putting the low to middle income rents in a higher demand, thus higher cost. Bingo. Absolutely. No doubt about it. That's exactly what's happening. All right, shifting gears a little bit. As you know, I've been covering this rest stop issue and wrote about all the text messages. And I don't want to say there was communication between the bidders and the person in charge of the selection process that seemed unethical. We'll put it politely. And certainly seemed to be a violation of the rules of the process, to put it politely. And this has been highlighted not only by me, but in lawsuit documents and in the Herald and a lot of places. And you know, I often criticize the Boston Globe and occasionally the Herald and certainly BUR for being completely corrupt. Less Herald, but certainly the Globe and BUR and the mainstream media writ large. But I always thought that, for instance, that the business media was a little bit more legit. I just thought that they were a little bit more on the level. In fact, recently I had thought of subscribing to the Boston Business Journal because I found myself reading some of their headlines from time to time. And so then I saw over the weekend this interview with the managing editor or whatever he is at the Boston Business Journal. And he did it with WBZ Channel 4 because WBZ Channel 4 and the Business Journal have a relationship. And it was just astounding to me that nowhere in this interview does the managing editor of the Boston Business Journal, can he ever mention text messages? He never mentions John Fish. He never mentions Suffolk Construction. And he never mentions the Massachusetts Dot employee who's at the center of this entire scandal, Scott Bosworth. Take a quick listen. This is a 5-minute. We're not going to listen to the whole 5-minute. Don't worry. But in the very beginning, he reveals the gig.
At the Boston Business Journal, one of our partners here at WBZ. And we are going to be talking about this ongoing saga of the Massachusetts Service Plaza contract. Don, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
So here's the thing with the Service Plaza contract. All of it just took a surprising turn. Applegreen, the company that was awarded the contract by MassDOT, well,
it was only a surprising turn if you weren't paying attention.
They're dropping out. And so now we're going to
they're dropping out. How did that happen?
Discuss, more about what is going on here. Why did Applegreen make this dramatic decision to drop out?
All right. So again, BZ in Boston Journal Boston Business Journal are partners. So this is basically one employee interviewing another, more or less.
It's really hard to say.
It's really hard to say why they backed out. It's really hard to say. Like, I don't know, could it have been the text messages at all hours of the day putting influence on the process? Could it have been the head of the selection process texting John Fish or somebody at Suffolk Construction, got it done? I think he texted him like 5 minutes after the board voted. Could it have been the personal medical records that Scott Bosworth was sending to executives at Suffolk Construction? Could it have been the apparent discussion that seems as if John Fish was lining up some type of employment opportunity for Mr. Bosworth, if you read between the lines, allegedly? Right? Could it have been Mr. Fish text messaging at 6-something in the morning complaining about the bridge to his private island in Osterville? I don't know. Could have been some of those things. But this guy here at the Boston Business Journal, he has no idea.
Decision to drop out.
It's really hard to say. They were chosen in June by the Mass Department of Transportation to
really hard to
redo
say.
18 service plazas, 11 of those along the Mass Pike.
All right, so that goes on for a while, but he gets a second bite at the apple, so to speak, Apple Green. Later in the discussion, we're going to skip forward to about 3:40 in the conversation, where she asks him, "Is there anything else it could have been?"
Learn more information.
It is very unusual that the losing bidder would make this big of a play for it. One thing that was in the beginning, which hasn't been mentioned as much recently,
what you think is important for our viewers to understand.
It's really impossible to say when the project might get off the ground.
Okay. Now, was there anything else you think is important for our viewers to understand about this project and the drama while we wait to learn more information?
So is there anything else? Is there anything else that our viewers should know about this drama?
It is very unusual that the losing bidder would make this big of a play for it. One thing that was in the beginning, which hasn't been mentioned as much recently, is that Global Partners would have partnered with a Boston-based company called Commonwealth Kitchen, which is a nonprofit in Roxbury
So then he goes into this whole Roxbury Global Kitchen thing, whatever the hell it is. But he has he gets another chance to redeem himself. Is there anything else? And not one time in the 5-minute interview does he say anything about text messages, John Fish, Suffolk Construction, and Scott Bosworth. Nothing. Apparently, that isn't the only time that a mainstream media outlet kind of has been covering their tracks for Suffolk Construction. Kirk Seamus Minahan, right? So this is a spam account, but nonetheless, this account asks, John Chesto, how do you write an entire article on the MassDOT Service Plaza debacle and not mention the text messages between a senior MassDOT MBTA executive and Suffolk Construction? Is the relationship you need to disclose? Right? And of course, this is not Kirk Minahan, but it's some type of parody account. Yeah, that's the phrase. It's a parody account. But it's a great question. Now, I have not read John Chesto's article because I don't read the Globe and I'm not going to send them any money. And I've also just decided I'm probably not going to send any money to the Boston Business Journal if they're inherently corrupt like that. Right? Exactly. How you can go 5 minutes in an interview like that and call yourself a serious journalist and not mention John Fish, text messages, Scott Bosworth, any of that. There's only really one reason. They're not worried about Apple Green. Apple Green's some big company in Ireland. If Applegreen pulls out of this process, yeah, they're not worried about Applegreen. They're worried about John Fish and Suffolk Construction. There's no doubt about it. Absolutely. That no one in the establishment wants to piss off or embarrass John Fish. Good thing I'm not in the establishment, right? The Herald ran a story, which I think they got the headline wrong. Applegreen spent tens of thousands on lobbyists amid controversy. The simple fact of the matter, to be fair, the other people spent a lot of money on lobbyists. I think less. So I think they got the Herald, the headline wrong here. But aside from that, this story is a little bit more representative of the facts because it gets into the actual scandal. And it mentions Scott Bosworth. It mentions the money that Applegreen sent to Smith, Costello, and Crawford, which is the lobbyist company that just hired the former state representative that was the ambassador to Ireland. And it gets into the text messages between Carlo Basile, the former state representative, and former Charlie Baker guy. It gets into the meat of the problem. So this headline is kind of deceptive because the beef of this article is about the real controversy, the text messages and all that other stuff. So good job, Herald, and good job, Chris Van Buskirk for writing that article. I think the headline could have been a little bit better, but aside from that, not a bad article. Much better and much more representative of what actually happened than the Boston Business Journal. All right, so you've heard about the whole marijuana grow houses here in Massachusetts, the money laundering rings that have been indicted, and you've heard about that probably up in Maine. There's this other thing. This is really ugly. This is awful. It's a human trafficking scandal apparently on our doorstep, and it was discovered in Methuen over the weekend. Listen to channel Fox 25 here explains.
New tonight, a Methuen massage parlor is shut down. The manager is facing human trafficking and prostitution charges. Boston 25 News reporter Christine McCarthy is live in Methuen. And Christine, you spoke to one of the neighbors who says she gave police information leading to this arrest.
I did, and she tells me for about 2 years she was snapping pictures, she was jotting down license plates and talking to police about the people who were coming in.
For 2 years. 2 years, this neighborhood lady has been snitching, good for her, to the cops. Listen how awful this is.
Going at this building, and she tells me she knew women were living in the basement.
Oh, my God.
I came into my neighborhood and my neighbor down the street is like, hey, this is finally happening.
It was 2 years coming for Beth Foote and her neighbors who'd been documenting the activity at the massage parlor across the street and reporting to police.
We were quite upset about it. Obviously, we have a beautiful view of people coming in and out.
Methuen police say 38-year-old Su Ping Zhu of New York, manager of Beauty Garden Spa on Wallace Street,
which apparently is a full-service beauty spa,
was trafficking women who were living in the basement and providing sex acts for clients.
It was young men, it was old men, it was professionals.
Foote shared these pictures with us. She says she saw this bus arrive, dropping off several women, a regular occurrence, she claims. Foote also snapped these photos of people in out-of-state cars bringing supplies, sometimes dropping off women with suitcases.
They would be a new group of girls coming in, and they were very blatant about it. They put them in these buses and they brought them in and they brought them out.
Police went undercover to shut.
All right. So what that tells me there is, well, there seems to be suspicion that maybe this is like a transshipment location, that they're dispersing these young women to multiple other locations. That's just my, this is it. Let me just say that from the little I understand about how the illegal marijuana grows work, and all credit to Steve Robinson up in the Maine Wire. He knows like a gazillion times more than I do about this. But the little I know about how the Chinese marijuana organized crime thing works, there's never just like one point of distribution. The interconnected relationships between one marijuana grow house to another, and all tracing back somewhere to New York City, Brooklyn usually, there's a strong thread with that. The theory that it's just this one spa in Methuen, as they used to say when I used to go to the Dewey Club. Anyone know the Dewey Club? Is that still there? In Methuen, is ridiculous.
Prostitution. They say 2 women were living in the commercially zoned building.
And until they start going after the guys that are doing this, we're never going to resolve it.
While Foote says the bust is a victory for the neighborhood, her heart breaks for the women involved.
Did I think twice about reporting it? Yeah, I did. Because quite frankly, those women they're not here because this is what their dream was. They're here because they got caught up in something they couldn't control.
All right, good job, neighborhood lady Foote, I think it was her name. All right, good job on her. I'm glad that you reported it. Understand that the story is probably a lot bigger than what we just saw, and understand that is directly connected to the invasion and China, right? I mean, Jack, you're a racist for saying that. No, that's just the facts, right? Wuhan virus. Oh, something just fell over there. It'll be all right. We'll rebuild. All right. This story from WBZ was so hilarious that I had to play it as part of today's show.
Oh, absolutely. So we're starting the day off with sunshine.
Let's go, Laura. Hold on. We're playing the wrong thing. Hold on quick second. Okay. There we go. This story. Let's bring it up here. It was so hilarious, I had to bring it up in today's show. Listen, it's only 23 seconds, but listen how hilarious this is.
Officials are asking you to stay out of the water in the Back Bay Fens. The Boston Public...
Officials are asking you to stay out of the water at the Back Bay Fens. How many of you would ever consider going for a dip in the water at the Back Bay Fens? Why are officials suggesting that you stay out of? No one in their right mind would go into the water at the Back Bay Fens.
Public Health Commission says the water contains a cyanobacteria algae bloom. It can be
of course it does. Is that even news?
Toxic, especially for kids and pets. The algae makes the
especially for kids and pets. It's probably bad for anybody.
Water murky and sometimes looks similar to paint. Officials are warning people to avoid the water until the pond's algae levels return to normal.
Which will be like never. You know another reason why no one goes into the water at the Back Bay Fens? Because Olmsted, who designed the emerald necklace, God rest his soul, right? Olmsted when he designed the Back Bay, he didn't really understand what he was designing. But Olmsted designed the perfect place to get mugged and to do any other nocturnal admissions, right? If you want to get mugged, just walk through the Back Bay Fens, day or night. Right? Am I wrong? Right? And why would you ever go in the water? But officials are warning. And WBZ falls for it and makes the story. The Back Bay Fens is like, you look at it and you're like, the only people that are going into the Back Bay Fens is someone that's already deceased. Like, oh my God. It's just right. Why would you go into the Back Bay Fens? Completely insane. It's been a great day it's been a great day for you because you spent an hour with me. And we'll be back, I hope, tomorrow morning. We'll see you then. Have a great day. Bye-bye.